I never imagined that a phone call could turn my life upside down, but that's exactly what happened. It was a crisp autumn afternoon in Los Angeles when my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. I almost ignored it, but something told me I should answer. When I did, the voice on the other end was unmistakable, even after all these years. "Susan, it's Melanie," she said, her tone carrying a strange blend of formality and something I couldn't quite place. "Melanie," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's going on?" My estranged sister had called to deliver the news that our grandmother had passed away. The news itself was shocking, but the way she spoke made it clear she had a hidden agenda. "I just wanted to let you know," she said, her voice laced with a hint of mockery. "I'm sure you're busy with your modest life." Her death marked the end of an era, and now, with Melanie's call, I felt like I was being dragged back into a world I had tried to leave behind. I spent the next few days preparing for the trip, and the thought of seeing Melanie again filled me with a mix of dread and anticipation. It wasn't just about the funeral, it was about facing the family dynamics that had shaped so much of my life. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Melanie's call than just the announcement of our grandmother's passing. When the day of the funeral arrived, I found myself standing in front of the old family home. The house looked exactly as I remembered it, unchanged, and yet somehow different. It was as if the walls held the echoes of our childhood, laughter and fights, dreams and disappointments. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy with grief and nostalgia. I saw familiar faces, some filled with sorrow, others marked by hidden agendas. As I moved through the crowd, I spotted Melanie. Her eyes were scanning the room with a practiced indifference, surrounded by people who seemed to hang on her every word. Her charm was as potent as ever. I watched her with a sense of unease. Despite the years and the distance, it felt like we were still locked in the same old struggle. Melanie's presence was a stark reminder of the family dynamics that had always been a part of my life. In the middle of the ceremony, as the eulogies were being delivered, Melanie managed to corner me. "Susan," she said, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "It's been a while." I forced a smile in return. "Yes, it has. How have you been?" "Oh, she replied, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Life has been interesting." I could sense the undercurrent in her words, the same old rivalry that had never truly faded. Looking at her, I realized that this reunion wasn't just about mourning our grandmother. It was about confronting the past, the betrayals, and the choices that had shaped both of our lives. Little did I know that this encounter would set the stage for revelations that would challenge everything I thought I knew about my sister and our family. The days leading up to the funeral were filled with tension and unresolved feelings. I tried to focus on my family, David, Lisa, and our daily routines, but it was impossible to ignore the looming reunion with Melanie and the family I had distanced myself from. The familiar, yet painful echoes of the past were all too real. On the day of the funeral, the air was thick with grief and unresolved emotions. The family home was filled with relatives and acquaintances, all paying their respects. The house, with its worn charm, seemed to watch over us like an old friend holding secrets. The walls felt heavy with the weight of past arguments, laughter, and hidden truths. As I entered the living room, I felt Melanie's eyes on me. Her presence was as imposing as ever, her polished exterior masking the deep-edged rivalry that had always existed between us. It wasn't long before she approached me again. Her smile was now more genuine, but still carried an edge. "I've been meaning to catch up," Melanie said, her voice carrying a note of curiosity. "It's been a while since we've had a chance to talk." I could almost hear her smirking through the phone. Her words stung, but I tried not to let it show. "Thank you for letting me know. I'll make arrangements to come." It wasn't just her words that hurt, it was the memories they dredged up. Growing up, Melanie was always the golden child. She had our father's favor and a certain charm that made everything seem to fall into place for her. As for me, I often felt overshadowed. Despite my best efforts to excel, my efforts seemed to go unnoticed. Melanie and I hadn't spoken much in years. After she stole David from me, I had cut ties with her, and, by extension, with the rest of my family. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was how it highlighted the unequal treatment I had always felt. David Parker had been my fiancé, the love of my life. We had a future plan together. That was until Melanie, with her manipulative charm, came into the picture. David left me for her, and I was devastated. It wasn't just a broken relationship. It was a betrayal that left deep scars. Our family had always been fractured. Our father, stern and unyielding, had favored Melanie for her resemblance to him. My mother, although caring, was often caught in the middle. She tried to show support, but it was clear that Melanie had always been the preferred child. After the breakup, I chose a different path. I left my job as a school administrator to focus on raising my daughter, Lisa. David, my husband, was a supportive tech executive who loved me for who I was. We had a cozy home in the suburbs and a life that, while modest, was filled with love. Lisa, our 6-year-old daughter, was a bright spot in our lives. She had a passion for drawing and even ran a popular YouTube channel where she shared her artwork with the world. Despite the success in my personal life, the call from Melanie stirred up a wave of old emotions. The thought of returning to the family home for the funeral filled me with apprehension. I hadn't been there in years, and the memories were bittersweet. Our grandmother had always been a beacon of kindness in our family. She was the one person who had supported me. I forced a smile, trying to keep my emotions in check. Yes, it has. How have things been for you? Oh, Melanie replied with a dismissive wave of her hand. Busy but good. I'm sure you've heard from the family about how things have been for me. I nodded, even though I wasn't entirely sure what she was referring to. The last I had heard from our parents, Melanie was living a life of luxury in Los Angeles. The stories I heard painted a picture of success and perfection, but I knew better than to take them at face value. During the wake, Melanie made a point of flaunting her perceived success. She talked endlessly about her life in Los Angeles, her upscale lifestyle, and her supposed achievements. It felt as though she was trying to outshine everyone and prove that her life was better than mine. I watched her with a mix of curiosity and irritation. Beneath her confident facade, I knew there was a tangled web of lies and manipulations. It was hard to ignore how she spoke about David Parker, my former fiancé and now her ex-husband. Her casual mentions of him, her attempts to show how unaffected she was by their failed marriage, felt like salt in an old wound. David had once been the center of my world. We had been planning a future together, until Melanie, with her cunning and charm, had stolen him away. The betrayal had left me heartbroken and disillusioned. Seeing Melanie flaunt her life so casually was a painful reminder of a hurt I had tried to move past. I decided it was time to confront Melanie about the past, hoping to find some closure. As the crowd began to thin out, I pulled her aside into a quiet corner of the house. Melanie, can we talk? I asked, trying to keep my tone calm. She looked at me, her eyes narrowing slightly. Of course. What's on your mind? I need to understand why, I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. Why did you have to take David from me? What made you think you could just take him away? Melanie's expression shifted from faux cheerfulness to something colder and more calculating. Susan, it's not about taking anything. David and I had our own connection. You just didn't see it. You manipulated him, I said, my voice rising with emotion. You knew how much I loved him. She shrugged nonchalantly. David made his own choices. You have to move on, Susan. Life doesn't wait for anyone. Her dismissive attitude was infuriating. You never understood, did you? It wasn't just about David. It was about how you always seemed to have everything handed to you, while I was left struggling. Melanie's face hardened. Don't blame me for your shortcomings. We all have our battles. Maybe if you had been more assertive, things would have been different. Her words felt like a stab in the dark, hitting all the old wounds that had never fully healed. I wanted to lash out, but I took a deep breath, trying to stay composed. This isn't just about David. It's about our family, the way things have always been stacked against me. Before Melanie could respond, we were interrupted by the arrival of some distant relatives. I had no choice but to step away, the confrontation unresolved. The rest of the evening was a blur of faces and condolences, but my mind was occupied with thoughts of the past and the unresolved issues between Melanie and me. The next day, as the funeral came to a close, I felt a mix of relief and apprehension. The family dynamics were as tangled as ever, and I knew there was more to uncover. Melanie's perfect life was starting to crack, and I was determined to see the truth come to light. I left the funeral with a heavy heart but a renewed sense of purpose. There was more to the story, and I was ready to confront it head-on. The confrontation with Melanie had set the stage for deeper revelations, and I was prepared to uncover the full extent of the lies and deceptions that had shaped our lives. In the days following the funeral, I experienced an unsettling calm. I found myself replaying my confrontation with Melanie over and over, seeking clarity amidst the chaos. It was evident that the underlying issues within the family were far from resolved. My mother's apology, though appreciated, did little to mend the rift that had existed for years. David and Lisa were my anchors during this tumultuous time. They sensed my distress, but chose to offer comfort rather than pry into my troubles. Lisa, with her innocent curiosity, continued to pour her heart into her YouTube channel, sharing her drawings with the world. Her joy was a bright spot amidst the darkness. It wasn't long before the next chapter of this saga unfolded. Melanie, ever the drama queen, took to social media to mock and sully. Her posts were veiled in sarcasm, presenting herself as the epitome of success while implying that my life was dull and insignificant. It was frustrating to see her attempt to diminish my happiness so publicly. That's when Lisa's YouTube channel became a weapon in this battle. After a particularly cruel post from Melanie, Lisa and I decided it was time to use her platform for more than just showcasing her artwork. I helped Lisa create a video that countered Melanie's lies, focusing on the positive aspects of our life and slyly addressing the falsehoods Melanie was spreading. The video, while innocent on the surface, contained enough pointed references to make it clear that we were aware of Melanie's attempts to undermine us. It quickly gained traction, and soon the comment sections of both Lisa's channel and Melanie's posts were flooded with reactions. People began to see Melanie's facade for what it was, a carefully crafted mask hiding insecurities and deceptions. As the video went viral, Melanie's reputation started to crumble. The social media backlash was swift and harsh. Comments pointed out the discrepancies in her stories, and questions about her integrity emerged. The spotlight she had so carefully crafted was now exposing her vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, Melanie's personal life began to unravel. David, struggling with the public fallout from our confrontation and the negative attention surrounding his and Melanie's failed marriage, made a significant error at work. It led to his dismissal from his position as a software engineer. The professional and personal pressure became too much for him, and he fell into a deep spiral of self-doubt, unable to cope with the financial and emotional strain. Melanie made a drastic decision. She filed for divorce, severing the final ties with David. Their son, James, became a casualty of this turmoil. Due to Melanie's unstable situation, he was placed into a care facility, a stark contrast to the privileged life she had once flaunted. The family dynamics were shifting rapidly. My mother, who had always been more sympathetic to me, approached me with a heartfelt apology for the past. She admitted that her favoritism towards Melanie had been a mistake and acknowledged the hurt it had caused. "I'm sorry for everything, Susan," she said, her eyes filled with regret. "We should have done better by you." I appreciated my mother's apology, recognizing her acknowledgement of the pain we had all endured. However, I knew that healing the scars of the past was not going to be simple or swift. I decided to maintain a distant but cordial relationship with her, focusing on what truly mattered, my family's happiness and well-being. Amidst these revelations, David and I agreed that we needed a break from the chaos. We planned a joyful outing to an amusement park, hoping it would be a chance for Lisa to have fun and for us to reconnect as a family. The day was everything we had hoped for, a time filled with laughter and bonding that reinforced the strength of our family and highlighted the content life we had built together. It was a much-needed respite from the ongoing drama and a reminder of the importance of moving forward with love and support. As we enjoyed the day, I realized that while the past had its shadows, the future held the promise of light. With Melanie's downfall and the family's apologies, I felt a sense of closure. The journey ahead was still uncertain, but for now, I could focus on cherishing the present and looking forward to a brighter future. The weeks following our trip to the amusement park brought a profound sense of calm. My life, once shaken by familial discord, was finding its equilibrium again. Looking around at my little family, I saw how much we had grown through the trials we faced. Melanie's downfall was a harsh reminder of the destructive power of envy and manipulation. Her failed attempts to belittle my life had only served to highlight her own downfall: the divorce, her son being placed in a care facility, and her diminishing reputation. These were all harsh consequences of the path she had chosen. David, once a significant part of my life and now a figure of past regrets, faced his own set of challenges. His dismissal from his job had left him struggling to regain his footing. Yet despite everything, I felt a sense of detachment from his troubles. My focus had entirely shifted to my own family and the life we had worked so hard to build. David and I continued to nurture our relationship, drawing strength from one another. Our daughter, Lisa, thrived in her creative endeavors. Her YouTube channel remained a beacon of joy and positivity, helping to distract us from the negativity that had once